Hello and welcome to another session in our teaching series, Hidden Facts in Biology. We are still on the transport system and now we are going to be looking at transport in man. The transport system in man comprises of number one, a circulatory fluid, which is the blood, two, a pumping organ, the heart, and three, a system of closed vessels, which include the arteries, the veins, and capillaries. So we are going to be looking at each of them separately. But first of all, let's look at the circulatory fluid, which is the blood. So our next subheading will be talking about the mammalian blood. Blood is a fluid tissue that is made up of about 55% fluid, and this fluid portion is known as the plasma, and 45% cells. Take note, we say blood is what? A tissue and not a cell. The cells that are present in blood, as we all know, since blood is a tissue, it should contain cells, and these cells include, or we can also call them corpuscles. They include the red blood cells, which is also known as the erythrocytes. We have also the white blood cells, which we know as the leukocytes. There's also the platelets. The platelets is also known as the thrombocytes. Now let's talk about the fluid portion of blood, which is the plasma. The plasma is the fluid portion of blood, and it consists of about 90% of water, and the other 10% is made up of dissolved substances. So the plasma contains 90% of water and 10% of dissolved substances, and these dissolved substances include glucose, amino acids, carbon dioxide. We also have salts. There is the presence of blood protein such as albumins, globulins, and fibrinogen. There is also the presence of hormones, antibodies, and excretory waste products. And like I said earlier, the plasma is the fluid portion of the blood. So what is the function of this fluid portion of blood? This fluid portion of blood is responsible for the transport of the substances that are dissolved in it, as well as the cell that floats in it. So the plasma helps to transport substances that are dissolved in it, and also the cells, talking about the erythrocytes, the leukocytes, and the thrombocytes. So now we are going to be looking at the red blood cells, which is also known as the erythrocytes. These red blood cells, which we can also call erythrocytes, are very small in size, but in quantity they are numerous. They are shaped in such a way that they look like a disc. In other words, they are disc shaped, and they have an elastic nature, that is, they can expand. I'll be showing you a diagram of the red blood cell. Okay, this is the diagram of the red blood cell, and 1 cubic liter of blood has about 4.2 to 5 million of these red blood cells. So I'll be talking about some characteristics of these red blood cells, and some of them include the fact that they lack nucleus. They have a normal lifespan of about 120 days, that is 4 months, before they are destroyed by the liver. They are destroyed by the long bones. They are produced in the bone marrow of long bones. And lastly, the red color of these cells is due to the presence of iron compound called hemoglobin. What is the function of the red blood cells? Functions of red blood cells. The function of these red blood cells is due to the hemoglobin that is present. The hemoglobin in the red blood cells transports oxygen from the lungs to the body cells. Hemoglobin combines readily with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin in the lungs. We'll be taking a look now at the white blood cells or corpuscles, which are known as the leukocytes. The white blood cells or leukocytes are larger in size than the red blood cells. I will be looking at some of their features. But before that, let's take a look at the diagram of white blood cells. So this is the diagram of the white blood cells. So now we can see the presence of nucleus, unlike the red blood cells that lack nucleus. So now we are going to be looking at some characteristics of the white blood cells. The white blood cells are amoeboid in shape. They are non-elastic. They are colorless and nucleated. That is, they contain nucleus. They are larger than red blood cells in terms of diameter, but fewer in terms of number than the red blood cells. And the amount of white blood cells in the blood is about 4,300 to 10,800. They lack hemoglobin pigment and do not carry oxygen, and they are capable of living for months. So now we are going to be looking at the types of white cells. There are three major types of white cells, and these are the granulocytes, the lymphocytes, and the monocytes. So now we are going to be looking at the types of white blood cells. There are three major types of white blood cells, and we are going to be looking at them individually. First of all, we look at the granulocytes. These granulocytes are phagocytes. When we say phagocytes, we mean that they are able to ingest foreign cells such as the bacteria, the viruses, and other parasites. They are found in the lymphatic system and account for 60% of the entire white blood cells. The process of ingestion of foreign substances is known as phagocytosis. That is, these granulocytes carry out the process of phagocytosis when they ingest foreign substance. There are three forms of granulocytes, and they are the neutrophils, the eosinophils, and the basophils. An acronym for you to remember the three forms of granulocytes is the name BEN, B-E-N, which stands for basophils, eosinophils, and neutrophils. Now we'll be looking at the lymphocytes, which are the other types of white blood cells. The lymphocytes produce antibodies and are made in the lymph glands. The function of the lymphocytes is that they help to regulate the body's immune system. Now the next one we're going to be talking about is the monocytes. The monocytes are produced in the bone marrow, and after being produced by the bone marrow, they develop into macrophages, which are also phagocytic. Of note is the fact that as we have granulocytes which have granules, we also have agranulocytes that do not contain granules. The lymphocytes and monocytes are both agranular, that is, they lack cytoplasmic granules, while the granulocytes, they are granular. What are the functions of the white blood cells? The function of the white blood cell is that the white blood cells defend the body against disease by ingesting the bacteria and virus that cause various infections or diseases. Now let's take a look at the blood platelets, also known as the thrombocytes. The blood platelets are tiny, irregular cell fragments which lack nucleus. They are formed in the bone marrow. Platelets are fewer in number and smaller in size than the red blood cell. They contain thromboplastin, which aid in blood clotting. What is the function of the platelets? Now I'll be showing you a diagram of how the blood platelets look. This is the diagram of the blood platelets. Now, what is the function of the blood platelets? The function of the platelets is that it enables clotting of blood. Of note is that in some persons, blood does not clot easily, and this condition is referred to as hemophilia. Hemophilia is a hereditary disease which is sex-linked. In other words, we mean that females are the carriers. Individuals with this disease lacks an enzyme which is known as the thrombokinase. Now let's talk about the lymph. Lymph is a clear and colorless fluid which flows in one direction along lymphatic vessels by the action of the body muscles. The lymphatic vessels connect to the subclavian vein, and this subclavian vein is located on either side of the neck. Some swellings which resemble the shape of a bean do exist in group along the lymph vessels, especially in the neck, the groin, and armpits. These swellings are referred to as the lymph nodes. The lymphatic system can be said to be second to the circulatory system, but however, it ends blindly. What are the functions of the lymph? The functions of the lymph includes number 1, body defense, And 2. Absorption of fatty acids. The lymphatic system, such as the lacteal, is what is associated with the absorption of fatty acids and glycerol. So now let's talk about the functions of blood in general. The functions of blood. The blood carries out some important functions. It is a transport medium which carries various substances from one part of the body to another. It also protects the body against disease-causing microorganisms and also helps in regulating body temperature. The function of blood will be described below under 3 major aspects. The first one we're going to be looking at is the transport of substances. So how does the blood function in the transport of substances? First of all, oxygen from the lung is transported by the red corpuscles in form of oxyhemoglobin. Remember we said that when the hemoglobin in the red blood cells or corpuscles combine with oxygen, they form oxyhemoglobin. And this oxyhemoglobin helps oxygen to be delivered to living body cells where it is used for respiration. Carbon dioxide, which is produced in the respiring body cells, is also carried by the red corpuscles to the lungs where it is excreted. Another way in which the blood helps in the transport of substances is in the case of digested food, because digested food substances like amino acids, glucose, fatty acids, and glycerol are carried from the ileum to body tissues for use or storage. Also, hormones are carried in the blood from ductless or endocrine glands where they are produced to organs or tissues where they affect or produce their effects. Another major aspect in which we could look at the function of blood is in that of body protection. So another aspect in which we can consider the process of the function of the blood is in that of body protection. The blood defends the body against the attack of pathogen. Thus, the phagocytes destroy any invading germs and poisonous material, while the lymphocytes produce antibodies which render foreign bodies in the blood harmless. If we could remember, we said that the granulocytes are phagocytes. So, in other words, the granulocytes, they destroy invading germs and poisonous materials. The blood also protects the body from too much bleeding by the process of clotting or coagulation whenever minor cuts and wounds occur. If you have a minor cut or if you have had one, you will notice that after some times the blood becomes thickened. What has just happened is the process of clotting, and that is being possible because of the process or the function of protection which is done by the blood. Another major aspect where we consider the function of the blood is in that of body regulation. For body temperature regulation, the blood distributes heat that is being produced by the liver and muscles throughout the body, while the excess heat is lost mainly through the skin. Also, the blood keeps constant the amount of water and mineral salts in the body, which is known as the process of osmoregulation. So the blood also helps in the process of what? Osmoregulation. So these are the major aspects which I have discussed about the functions of blood. They look at the aspect of transport, the aspect of body protection, and the aspect of body regulation. So now we're talking about the various blood group. The blood group. The blood group in man is determined by the presence or absence of two substances, and these are known as antigens and antibodies. Antibodies are proteins that is found in plasma, and these antibodies are part of the body's natural defense system. The function of these antibodies is that they help to recognize the presence of foreign substances, and it may be a germ, and allow the immune system, and this immune system will destroy these foreign substances. While antigens are protein molecules found on the surface of red blood cells. In human, There are four types of blood group, and these are the blood group A, the blood group B, the blood group AB, and the blood group O. In a tabular format, I'm going to be showing you the different blood group and the substance or the antigen that is present on the cell, and also the substance or antibody that will be present in the plasma. So now let's look at the first blood group, the blood group A. The blood group A has the antigen A as a substance that is present on the cell, and the substance in the plasma or antibody in the plasma is the antibody B, while the blood group B has the antigen B as the substance or antigen on cell, while in plasma there is the presence of antibody A. While for the blood group AB, the antigen A and B are the substances on cell, while in the plasma there is no antibody. While for the blood group O, the substance on cell or the antigen on cell is none. In other words, there is no antigen present on the cell of individuals with blood group O. Or however, the antibody that is present in the plasma is antibody A and B. What we notice in this tabular format is that for every blood group, the antigen that is present in the cell is similar to the blood group of the individual, and the antibody that is in the plasma is the opposite of whatever antigen that is present in the cell. For example, the blood group A, that tells us that the antigen on the cell will also be antigen A, while in the plasma the antibody will be that of B, antibody B. This plays an important role in the process of blood transfusion. In blood transfusion, for example, the effect of the recipient's plasma on the donor's erythrocyte is considered. That is, we'll be looking at the antibody that is present in the recipient plasma and the antigen that is in the donor's erythrocyte. The plasma of the donor normally is usually too small to have any effect on the recipient's erythrocyte. That is why we do not consider the plasma of the donor. Agglutination, which is the clumping together of antigens with the corresponding antibodies in the plasma of incompatible blood group, will occur if blood transfusion is not done appropriately, that is, using a compatible blood group. So we are going to be looking at blood group compatibility in a tabular format, so that we will know which blood group are compatible to prevent the process known as agglutination. So now we are going to be looking with this table how to know if individuals' blood group are compatible. Now let's take, for example, a recipient whose blood group is blood group A. When we say recipient, we mean the individual that's going to be receiving the blood. So if the recipient's blood group is blood group A, like we have explained before, the antigen or the substance that will be present on that cell is antigen A. And if antigen A is present on the cell, that means the antibody that will be present in the plasma will be the opposite antibody, which would be, in this case, antibody B. So for an individual who have a blood group of A with antibody B present in the plasma, if we have several donors such as that of blood group A, that of blood group B, that of blood group AB, and that of blood group O, which of them will be compatible to donate blood to an individual or recipient with blood group A? How do we know this? Remember, we said in order to prevent the process of agglutination or clumping together of antigens, that is, the antibodies present in the recipient's plasma should not correspond with the antigen present in the donor's blood group. So now, since this individual with blood group A has antibody
B. Any donor that have the antigen B will not be a candidate, and as such will not be compatible. That is to say, for example, for an individual or donor with blood group A, this means the antigen present in the cell of this individual is A. This individual is compatible, so we give it the sign of compatibility because the antibodies present in the plasma does not correspond with the antigen present in the donor's blood group. For the individual with blood group B, we can see that the antibody present in plasma corresponds with the donor's antigen that is present in the blood group, that is antigen B. Since they correspond, it shows that they are not compatible, and as such this individual is not compatible. That is why we have to give it the sign of incompatibility, OX. For the next individual or the next donor with blood group AB, since there is still antigen B present in this blood group, it shows that the antibodies present in the plasma of the recipient with the figure B or antibody B corresponds also with the B component of the donor's blood group, and this makes it incompatible. So donor's blood group with AB cannot transfuse blood to a recipient with blood group B. Now for individuals with blood group O, we say that those with blood group O do not have any antigen at all. They do not have what? Any antigen at all. And since because of the fact that there is no antigen present, this makes them compatible, as there will not be a corresponding antigen that will react with the antibody. So individual with blood group O are compatible. So now to the next blood group, the next recipient blood group, which is blood group B. This recipient, we have the antibody A present in the plasma. Since is antibody A present in the plasma, what are the individuals that can donate blood, or what are the blood groups that can donate blood to this blood group? Recipient of blood group B, since the antibody present in plasma is that of A, only individuals that don't have, or only donors that don't have antigen A can donate blood. That is, for the donor with blood group A and having antigen A will not be able to donate blood, so this makes it incompatible. But for the donor with blood group B and having antigen B, since the antigen in the donor's blood group does not correspond with the antibody present in the recipient plasma, such an individual can donate blood. So that is, we give it the sign of compatibility. While for the next individual with or donor with blood group AB, since the antigen A is present in that blood group, it will make it incompatible because there is a corresponding antibody A in the blood group B. And also for donors with blood group O, they are compatible. Reason also being that there is no antigen present in blood group O. And also for individuals with blood group AB, which we are going to be taking next, recipients with blood group AB, such recipients do not have antibodies, and since they don't have any antibody present, this means that individuals in this blood group compatibility, or recipients in this blood group, can collect blood from any donor. So that is, they can collect blood from blood group A, blood group B, blood group AB, and blood group O. And lastly, for recipients with blood group O, such individuals have antibodies A and antibodies B present, and since they have antibodies A and antibody B present, they won't be able to collect blood from donors that have antigen A or antigen B in their blood group. That is, they won't be able to collect blood from individuals with blood group A, blood group B, and blood group AB. Or however, they can collect blood from individuals with blood group O. So this table just explains blood group compatibility and how to understand it in order to prevent the process of agglutination, which is the clumping together of antigens with the corresponding antibodies in the plasma of incompatible blood group. So now we have come to the end of this session. We are going to be taking some examples and exercise. So now we'll be taking our first example, which says, which of the following blood components has the greatest affinity for oxygen and carbon dioxide? A. Blood plasma. B. Leukocytes. C. Thrombocytes. D. Erythrocytes. And E. Lymphocytes. The answer to this question is D. Erythrocytes, the red blood cells. And this is because they contain hemoglobin, which has high affinity for oxygen and carbon dioxide and helps in their transportation. To our next question, it says blood in mammals transport oxygen because it contains the pigment called A. Hemoglobin, B. Chlorochlorine, C. Melanin, D. Hemocyanin, and E. Hemoerythrin. The answer to this question is A. Hemoglobin is a pigment that gives the red blood cells its coloration, and it helps in the transportation of oxygen. The next question, it says thrombocytes are blood cells responsible for initiating A. Phagocytosis of bacteria, B. Synthesis of ribosomes, C. Clothing of the blood, D. Immunity of certain infectious diseases, and E. Removal of carbon dioxide from tissues. The answer to this question is C. Thrombocytes, which are known as blood platelets, help in clothing of blood. So the next question, it says, which of the following is not correct about blood platelets? D. A. Are also known as thrombocytes. B. Have no nucleus. C. Are found in the red bone marrow. D. Neutralize the toxins in the blood. And E. Help in clothing of blood. The answer to this question is E. Help in clothing of blood. Now to our next question, it says, which of the following blood groups is or are the universal donors? A. Blood group O, B. Blood group A, C. Blood group B, D. Blood group AB, E. Blood group AB and O. The answer to this question is A. The blood group O, and this is because the blood group O is the universal donor. That is, individuals with blood group O can donate blood to individuals of all other groups. There is also a blood group that is the universal acceptor. That is one thing I want you to note. This is the blood group AB, and this is because individuals with blood group AB can accept blood from individuals of other blood groups. Now to our next question, it says the function of the human blood red cell is to A. Make antibodies, B. Carry oxygen, C. Absorb heat, and D. Destroy bacteria. The answer to this question is B, and this is because the red blood cells helps to transport oxygen across the body tissues. To our next example, it says which of the following constitute the cellular component of the mammalian blood? Roman figure 1, hemoglobin. Roman figure 2, erythrocyte. Roman figure 3, leukocyte. Roman figure 4, platelets. Here are the options. A. Roman figure 1, 2, and 3 only, which are hemoglobin, erythrocyte, and leukocyte. B. Roman figure 1, 3, and 4 only, which are hemoglobin, leukocyte, and platelets. C. Roman figure 2, 3, and 4 only, which are erythrocyte, leukocyte, and platelets. And D. Roman figure 1, 2, 3, and 4 only, which are hemoglobin, erythrocyte, leukocyte, and platelets. The answer to this is C, which are Roman figure 2, Roman figure 3, and Roman figure 4 only. These include the erythrocytes, which is the red blood cells, the leukocytes, the red blood cells, and platelets, thrombocytes. These are the cellular components of blood. Our answer is C.
Okay, now we are done with this session on examples. We are going to be looking at some exercises. These exercises were taken from our textbook Hidden Facts in Biology. We can see that in page 140, and the answers are present in the answer section of the book for both the soft copies and hard copy. Thank you for listening.